Good evening to everyone. I'm Mohan Gopal, and with me is Sri B.D. Borkar, chairman of the Carpade Foundation and the former national president of WAMSEF and one of the most distinguished leaders of the Dalit movement of India. And we are here together observing April 14th, 2025, the birth anniversary of Baba Sahib Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And we will be discussing together a topic which is the counter revolution against the annihilation of caste agenda of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar. What I will do initially is to very briefly summarize in his own words the agenda of annihilation of caste, which he set out as the central challenge facing India. Starting from the late 18th century, there were many movements against castes across the country, social revolution movements across the country, starting with Jyotiba Phule. Dr. Ambedkar was, of course, the foremost leader of that. We had Narayana Guru, we had Periyar, we had many leaders from across the country. And in fact, it was a remarkable period where every few years a giant was being born in this country to lead the movement against caste. But what we have found now is with the emergence of independence, there is today no space to take forward this anti-caste movement, whether it's in the legislature, the executive, or the judiciary. Everywhere, if we talk of caste, then we are seen as casteist and tribalist, and diverting into agenda, dividing people. So while caste remains extremely strong, with four communities controlling and constituting the oligarchy that Dr. Ambedkar predicted, controlling the bulk of all the power in this country: economic, social, political, academic, media, academia, every culture, film, in every aspect of life. Four communities constituting an oligarchy are controlling the country. Every state has dominant castes as oligarchies. So on one hand, the caste oligarchy is more powerful than ever before. And yet suddenly, after the 19th century, early part of the 20th century, all the anti-caste movements have been stopped and blocked by those who have taken over power. And so there has been a very significant counter-revolution in the last 75 to 78 years, 78 years after independence, 75 years after the constitution, against the anti-caste movement of this country, which actually originated with the Buddha from the 6th century BC and has continued and all the time been faced with resistance. But now we are in the middle of great resistance against the anti-caste movement, where we are silenced. We are not able to speak of the caste issue without appearing regressive, appearing like wanting to divide the country and prevent the progress of the country. So today what we want to discuss is to understand the anti-caste agenda mandate that Dr. Ambedkar left us as the central and most important challenge to democratize Indian society in order for us to make progress, whether it's economic, social, or political. And then to discuss the counter-revolution in summary. So this is what we are planning to do. Let me, Mr. Borkar has kindly asked me to begin by describing the summary of the annihilation of caste agenda in Dr. Ambedkar's own words, but I would like to request Mr. Borkar to make any introductory comments if he has, before I move to reading out Dr. Ambedkar's own summary of the annihilation of caste agenda.
Thank you, sir. In fact, I was traveling, but then as we have decided that we must discuss this very important issue, especially the caste is the biggest hurdle in the progress of not only the backward classes, but the country as a whole. And therefore, if the country has to progress, the initial comments which Baba Sahib has written in his booklet or the speech which he has delivered, the caste in India, there he said as long as the caste in India does exist, Hindus will hardly intermarry or have any social intercourse with outsiders. And if Hindus migrate to other region on earth, Indian caste would become a world problem.
Hmm.
So you see, in the 1916, he is saying this. How big is the caste problem in India? And if it migrates to the other part of the world, then this is a very big problem for the world. So Baba Sahib has said this in the caste in India. At other place, he said who brought this caste, how the caste is has come into existence, how who are the people who created caste. He said that in this book itself. He said who created the caste. So he said not the Manu has not created the caste. He said the caste is even before Manu the caste was there. But the caste is created by Brahmins. He is specifically saying the caste is created by Brahmins. Now, my point is, whoever creates anything, any creation, the first and foremost thing, one creates anything for himself. In his own interest, it is created. So, my point is, the caste is created by Brahmins in their own interest. And as you said in the initial remarks, if it is created by them in their own interest, so obviously they do not want it to be eliminated or annihilated. Why? Because once they have created in their own interest, and if it is getting annihilated, then naturally, whatever the interest they wanted to serve out of the caste, they will not be able to serve their own interest. And that is the reason I feel. That is the reason I feel when we are as a anti-caste movement, when there are various organizations, they are speaking against the caste, they are trying to stop it. And moment we start talking against the caste, then they brand us as a casteist. That is what I feel.
So let us focus then on the specific agenda that Baba Sahib set out. It's very important for us to look at that. This is drawn from the response of Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar to the comments made by Gandhiji about his undelivered publication, The Annihilation of Caste. And here he's summarizing the principal points which he made in the 1936 speech on annihilation of caste. And this is as follows. I'm quoting Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar. The principal points which I have tried to make out in my speech may be categorized as follows. One, that caste has ruined the Hindus. So caste is, this is my words, caste is ruinous, is his first point. Number two, that the reorganization of Hindu society on the basis of Chaturvarnya, so caste is Chaturvarnya, is impossible because the Varna Vyavastha is like a leaky pot or like a man running at the nose. It is incapable of sustaining itself by its own virtue and has an inherent tendency to degenerate into a caste system unless there is a legal sanction behind it which can be enforced against everyone transgressing his Varna. So second point he's saying is that Chaturvarnya is not a viable system on the basis of which to organize society. It has ruined the Hindus, is his first point. Second point is that this is not a basis in which to organize Indian society, Chaturvarnya. Third point is that even if it were possible, the reorganization, now I'm reading his words, the reorganization of the Hindu society on the basis of Chaturvarnya is harmful because the effect of Varna Vyavastha is to degrade the masses by denying them opportunity to acquire knowledge and to emasculate them by denying to them the right to be armed. or to be armed independently, or to have knowledge independently. So first point is caste has ruined the Hindus, has ruined society. Second is it is not possible to have any society organized on the basis of Chaturvarnya. It's not a practical, implementable, logical system to organize society. Third is that if you still organized it on the basis of Chaturvarnya, it is harmful, because it will degrade the masses by denying them knowledge and power. Number four, Hindu society must be reorganized on a religious basis which would recognize the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. So basically, 2 points are being made here by Dr. Ambedkar. One is that we cannot be organized on a religious basis which denies liberty, equality, and fraternity. India cannot move forward as long as India is organized on a religious basis where that religion accepts or rejects liberty, equality, and fraternity, and accepts autocracy, inequality, and social enmity and division and hierarchy. So therefore, Hindu society must change. Hindu society must change its own religious basis and make liberty, equality, and fraternity the basis of the society. Fifth, he says that in order to achieve this object, the sense of religious sanctity behind caste and varna must be destroyed. And sixth, he says that the sanctity of caste and varna can be destroyed only by discarding the divine authority of the Shastras. So for the annihilation of caste, basically, he is saying three things. The earlier parts are, the first 3 points are about the harmful nature of caste. For the annihilation of caste, Baba Sahib identifies 3 steps. One is organize Indian society on a religious basis which accepts the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. The religion has to accept the principle of liberty, equality, and fraternity of human beings. Second, that in order to achieve this object, the sense of religious sanctity behind caste and varna, he doesn't say jati, varna must be destroyed. So the idea of varna having religious sanctity must be destroyed. That's a second of 3 points for the annihilation of caste. The third point is that the divine authority of Shastras must be rejected by Hindu society. These are the 3 points for the annihilation of caste. Very revolutionary points, very frightening points as far as the oligarchy is concerned. So along with this, one more point to support his Baba Sahib's 1936 enunciation of the 3 points of the annihilation of caste: reorganize a Hindu religion on the basis of liberty, equality, and fraternity, reject the religious sanctity of caste, and third, reject the religious sanctity and divine authority of the Shastras. To this, he added in 1930, between 1960 and 30, number of times, but articulated 1930 in the Roundtable Conference very clearly, is concerned that India will be ruled by an oligarchy, ruled by a few people after the departure of the British. And that is exactly what has happened. We are now ruled by an oligarchy. And he put forward representative democracy as the demand of the depressed classes in order to dismantle the oligarchy. And that representative democracy has been systematically suppressed and shelved by using the idea of merit and saying representative democracy basically is a threat against merit. So this is the basis of, this is the background against which the counter-revolution has begun.
All right, sir. I just wanted to say a few things before I comment on this part.
Yes.
When he applied for the scholarship to Maharaja Baroda, and he was interviewed for that.
Yes.
So in the interview, he was asked, what will you do after taking this higher education? He answered. He said, I'll go there. I'll study all the subjects. I'll study history, political science, anthropology, economics, everything. And then I'll make a searchlight out of the knowledge which I'll acquire. I'll make a searchlight out of it. and I'll
Yes.
find the ways and means
Yes.
to solve the problems of my people
Yes.
through that searchlight of knowledge.
Yes.
That is what he said. So he
I
was
got.
determined
Yes.
right from the beginning, even before going to Columbia University. He was
Yes.
determined what he has to do,
Very clear.
what
Very
is
clear.
his objective.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that objective was he wanted to solve the problems of his people and so also the humanity.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
is why the first thing he did, the
Yes.
first thing he did, uh, while coming in the public movement, the first thing he did is the caste in India. He
Yes.
studied caste in depth.
Right.
What
Right.
is this problem? What is this? And then he said this uh, ethnological problem, then Indology.
Yes.
Yeah, what he used the word. Uh,
Caste in India, their mechanism, genesis, and development.
yes, yes, in that
Yes.
he used that word. I just sometimes I
Yes.
exogamy and endogamy.
Yes. Yes. Endogamy and
Yes.
exogamy.
So he said it is the earlier society there was an exogamy,
Right.
and the caste is creation by imposing endogamy on the exogamy.
Yes. Yes.
That is what he said. So this is this is how the caste was created, by imposing endogamy over the exogamy, and this was consciously created by the Brahmins. That is what he has said. This is the caste problem, how the problem arises. And then on the solution part, immediately in 1936,
Right.
in 1916, he has identified the problem, that the caste is the problem,
Yes.
and in 1936 he has provided the solution, as you have
Yes.
already pointed out. And in the
Yes.
solution part, he has said that when he was asked, if you are
Yes.
against caste, then what are your ideas? Then what are
Yes.
your ideas? What is the solution to that? There he has said that it should be. He has specifically said here. I am
Yes.
reading from the Annihilation of Caste.
Oh, Annihilation of Caste. Okay.
I am
1936.
reading
Okay.
from Annihilation of Caste. He
Yeah.
said, if you ask me, my ideal would be society. My ideal would be a society based on liberty, equality, and fraternity.
Correct.
Here he has said that in the solution part.
Yes. Yes.
Huh? In a solution to destroy the caste, the solution lies in a society which is based on the liberty,
Correct.
equality, and fraternity. Here
Correct.
exactly he has said.
Correct.
And then therefore he said there is these principles of liberty and equality, fraternity, they are not in the Hindu society. And
Right.
therefore the Hindu society must accept this.
Yes.
If
Yes.
they wanted to really reform, if they
Yes.
wanted to really reform Hindu society, then they must accept this. He said, I am convinced that the real remedy is intermarriage. Two
Intermarriage.
things are said. He said real remedy is, because some people were telling that interdining should be there. So he rejected that. He rejected that, and he said there should be intermarriage. Fusion of blood
Yes.
can alone create a feeling of being kith and kin. And
Yes.
unless this feeling of kinship, being kindred, become paramount in the separatist feeling, the feeling of being aliens created by caste will not vanish.
Right.
So, and further he said, so now this is a very contesting issue now. Many
Right.
of our scholars also, the
Yes.
scholars from the Mul Nivasi Bahujan Samaj, they are also saying that the intercaste marriage is the solution.
Yes.
My personal feeling is, if you say it is a intercaste marriage, then the caste is there.
Correct.
You
Correct.
are you are accepting the existence of caste, and
Correct.
then you say that they should intermarry. So this is no solution, and that is why Baba Sahib has provided a solution. Their Shastra who teaches them this feeling of separate feeling of ups and downs, degradation, and all that. These are the Shastras they are creating, this, teaches this feeling, and therefore the Shastras should be destroyed. And
Correct.
I'll put a dynamite they should be destroyed by dynamite.
Right, right,
And and one more thing he said there, sanctity of Shastras, and he said the real remedy is to destroy the belief in the sanctity.
right, right.
The word is the real remedy is to destroy the belief in the sanctity of Shastra.
That's right. That's what
So
it was
it
the
is the
summary of.
belief.
Yes,
It is
belief.
the belief which to belief is a mental phenomenon.
Correct.
So it means if you want to destroy the belief, you have to awaken the society.
Right,
You have to interact with the society. You have to tell the people this is what you believe in and how it is against your own interest.
right,
So that sort of education of the society is required. Unless that is done, so you
right,
have to have the knowledge of the Shastras, what is there in the Shastra, how it is against your own interest, and how liberty, equality, and fraternity will solve your problem.
right,
These are the awakening. I think we should uh, awaken the society on this line. Then
right,
only the social revolution we have
right,
described in the subject also. The
yes,
social revolution will come only through awakening the people,
right,
and once they give up their wrong beliefs,
right,
then I think we'll be able to bring
right.
about the social revolution. And they are using the political system for maintaining it. We'll come
Right.
to that little later.
So I think that's excellent, and we have now sort of summarized Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar's broad approach to the to what caste is and the need to annihilate caste as the central challenge facing this country, and of relevance to the whole world, because we are now the largest population in the world, and if we are completely suffering from this cancer of caste, becomes a problem of the whole world. Now, I think one more aspect briefly to say that caste today our focus is on Baba Sahib Ambedkar, and we'll come back to that. But there was a rich literature starting from Jyotiba Phule and Narayana Guru and others who are also defining caste in different ways, and all complementary, all agreeing with each other, all focusing on the same issues articulated by Baba Sahib. That basic problem is that we have to give up our belief in the Shastras.
Right.
Those who believe in the Shastras, they're condemned to live under the caste system. So that link between belief in the Shastra and the survival of the caste system is really at the heart of it. So this means that the caste system comes from the Shastras.
Right.
It is gets its sanctity, its structure from the Shastra. So this is where Narayana Guru, Phule, all of them are focusing on how to how do we understand our relationship with these Shastras that prescribe inequality, graded inequality, and the caste system. So in this background, the next question I want to ask is, what we are told now is, this is 75 years ago, 80 years ago, 1916, 100 years ago. There is no more caste in this country, right? Mr. Borkar was a very senior official of the Indian civil services. There are so many people in important positions. Where is their caste? Why are you talking about caste which existed only 100 years ago? Where is the practice of caste today? So this is the argument that we are told when we talk about these ideas, saying this is all irrelevant, right? Now, and that is the first step in the counter revolution is to deny that there is a problem of caste, and that's the first step. So we can briefly address that issue, because what has happened is, like there is a series there's a work going on in internationally called modern day slavery. Okay, slavery has changed in its form. It is no longer shackled people working in cotton plantations,
Right.
uh, in chains. But slavery still exists. Slavery is forced labor. It is labor where people are enslaved, stripped of all their rights, denied their human rights, denied their humanity, and used to do whatever their exploiters want them to do. So it has changed. The nature of slavery has changed. But slavery has not gone away. It still exists in many parts of the world, and that is recognized. So we have to now understand that there is modern day caste system. The caste system has changed the language it uses, it changed the way it manifests itself. It has gone underground. It has gone underground. There was an open assertion of caste in the past when Baba Sahib Ambedkar was fighting it. Thanks to his fight and other struggles against it, they have stopped talking openly about it, and they've gone underground. So we need to spend a few minutes to understand how caste is, in your view, how is caste working in our society today? How do we find it? I'll give you a small example and then request you to speak. I visited a friend of mine in Delhi, and he said the same thing to me. He and his family, there is no caste here. We live here. Where is the caste? Why are you working on caste? There's no caste issue. So I said, let me ask you a simple question. The young daughter, 10, 12, 15 years old, was also saying the same thing. So I asked the daughter, I said, do you have a cook coming here to do the cooking in your house? Yes, cook comes. Do you have who cleans the toilet? That jamdarni cleans the toilet. I said, why the cook? Neither the cook nor your parents, nobody will clean the toilet. Only the jamdarni will clean the toilet. Does a jamdarni cook in the kitchen? No. Jamdarni will not come into the kitchen. She'll clean the toilet and go. So I said, do you realize that is the practice of caste right in the middle of your house on a daily basis? And you are not seeing it. You're just blind to it because we are not describing it as a caste system. But the Jamdarni comes from a community where she is not given any option except to do that work. And the cook comes from a different community. Your parents come from a different community. But this work is to be done only by people from a certain community. And that is the reality. Then I said, I can give you other examples of how work is distributed in our country and how there is a concentration of certain communities in the highest levels of work, and you will never find people from the oligarchy working as jamdarni or as manual scavengers and so on. So there is a concentration of certain communities in slave labor, in low skill labor, and the higher echelons, and that is a problem which Dr. Baba Sahib anticipated and framed it as a problem of representative democracy, where we must have representation of all communities in order to deal in all segments of life, economic, social, political, all aspects of life. There must be a due share for everyone. Now he was actually preparing the way to counter this argument that caste is being denied, because now we have to understand the operation of caste as a denial of representation and due share. That is where caste is most evident and most obvious, and that is what is confining the large segment of population to virtual slavery or near slavery. So I'll request you to guide us
Right.
on what is modern day caste.
I was also about to say that
Yes,
the gentleman was talking to you and saying that there is no caste, and why are we discussing the
yes,
caste issues now? Uh, in his family itself, we could have asked him which caste your wife is from.
yes, yes,
Or now, where are you going to marry your daughter? Are you
yes,
going to marry your daughter to to
yes.
say a scavenger? And then they tell, no, no, no. So scavenger, how can I marry my daughter to be this scavenger?
And they'll say it's economic
What
class. But it's not economic class. If will you marry some a person who comes from
uh,
maybe is an IAS officer or IFS officer but comes from that social background, they will hesitate. They will hesitate.
that may be true. But basically, it is the frame of mind, you see.
Yes, that's what
Caste
I'm
is,
saying. They will frame it as class, but actually that same hesitation is there in their mind, regardless of class.
yes, exactly. That is what I am telling. Exactly, it is the mindset of those people. Through that mindset, every activity they perform,
Yes,
that mindset is controlled. Say for
yes,
appointment in the government services.
yes,
Say for example, as you have rightly pointed out earlier also, you
yes,
will hardly find any secretary from the lower strata of the society.
yes.
Why it is so? They are equally competent people. They have
Yes.
proved their competence. But when
Yes.
it comes to a placement in the
Yes.
highest position, or for that matter, even in the judiciary, what
Yes.
is the position? Why?
Yes.
Why the people from the different caste or from the lower strata of the society, they are not placed in the judiciary, and
Yes.
to
Yes.
the extent of the proportion of their population.
Yes.
It is only because they wanted to control the entire system, not only through the political system, but through the
Yes.
judicial system also. And they wanted to maintain their hegemony in
Yes.
all the walks of life, in all the walks of life. And politics is such a powerful tool. Those who are
Yes.
in the placed in the power position, political power position, that
Yes.
power they are using for uh, placement in the judiciary also.
Right.
So actually, caste is there.
Yes.
These people, as you have rightly said, they are blind to the caste because they know once this issue is brought to the fore
Yes.
and discussed in the public domain,
Yes.
then this lower strata of the society will realize
Yes.
that they what is happening with them, and then they may revolt against this
Yes. Yes.
caste system and the Brahmanism and the Hinduism. And
Yes.
therefore, at the beginning of the talk itself,
Yes.
they do not want this issue to
Yes.
be brought in the public domain. That is what I feel.
Yes. No, absolutely correct. So we can say in summary that the modern day expression of caste is found
Yes,
in the concentration of power and wealth,
yes,
not in terms of uh, not admission in schools, colleges, and open exclusion of, but what is used to happen in the past continues, namely concentration of power and wealth in a few communities in an oligarchy. So if you
yes,
look at government, you look at the judiciary, executive, legislature, the political parties, you look at economy, everywhere there's a concentration of power, right?
yes,
And that is the way in which, so that has been preserved. That has been preserved. So modern day caste continues in terms of concentration of power and wealth. Now, what
right.
is the mechanism which they do it? In the old days, they used to simply say that if you are born into certain communities, you cannot even study, you cannot apply, you cannot prepare to be in any position of power. Now, because of global compulsions and national compulsions and the shamefulness of all this, they are not able to do that. So they have found new ways in which to maintain the concentration of power and wealth in the hands of a few communities. Those and that has become the practice of casteism. That has become the practice of casteism. Not the old practice was simply saying, no, you cannot enter, you stay out, you cannot. Now they say, okay, you enter, you write the exam, but you'll never get the job. You write the
Yes,
exam, you're fully entitled. You can apply, but you will not get the job. Very few jobs. I'm arguing a case about Shabrimala, Male Shanti. I've told you the priest in Shabrimala, where, like in the old days, they're saying, unless you're a born Malayala Brahmin, you cannot even apply. But very few of those positions are left. Now they'll say apply, but you'll never get the job when the selection is done. So we have to now understand that the operation of caste is operating through the control of power and the norms that are being set for the exercise of power. And the norms and the main argument they are using to maintain now openly, publicly, internally, they're ensuring that only people from their communities get power and wealth, most of it. But they cannot express it. So what are they? The language they're using? They're using the language of merit, right? This has become, so merit has become the main expression of modern day caste, the idea of merit, the false idea of merit. Now, if we examine that, we'll find that there is so much prejudice. They say, for example, the Supreme Court says you cannot have reservation, mainly appointment of people from the depressed classes in top positions or sensitive positions or scientific positions. And so there is clear statements by the Supreme Court in many judgments that reservation damages merit. Now, if this is if this was not based upon communal prejudice, the solution would have been, if people who come from certain institutions may lack merit, people who come from certain other institutions may be well trained, they may have merit. But they're saying people with certain community background. The reservation means representation of certain communities. If you appoint them, regardless of whether they're educated in IIT or at St. Stephen's College or anywhere, but if you appoint them other than through the general quota, through a reservation quota, the quality will go down, the merit will go down. They've defined merit in such a way. But so in the definition of merit, first of all, they're using merit to deny representation and keep the oligarchy. Secondly, even where competition is concerned in merit, they are setting the questions according to their own experience. It's like one at that time, I think, sitting judge of the Kerala High Court made a speech in which he said all the top officials of the country should be vegetarians, having sambar, listening to Carnatic music. I can't remember. Basically, he described his own culture and his own lifestyle. And he said,
Right.
these are the meritorious people who should run the country. So that is a definition of merit. Merit means like us. If you're like us, so they have converted the word upper caste into merit. And merit means belonging to the upper caste, or the so-called upper caste, or the oligarchic communities, in terms of culture, values, attitudes, and so on, which becomes impossible to acquire unless you belong to those communities, because these qualities are acquired only through are peculiar to communities, right? Are peculiar to communities and their upbringing. They share certain values and so on. So they have decided, because they are controlling power, this is merit. So modern day caste is being operated basically through the idea of merit. And this is where we have not yet focused and taken down. Now we should use the word competence and not merit.
Right.
We want people to be appointed based on competence. In other countries, the word competence is much more used than the word merit. You want a pilot, he should be competent to to be a pilot. You will then have objective measures to measure competence. But here there is no definition of merit other than what this honorable former judge said in public. Namely, merit means the qualities of my community. That is what is merit. But they are not laying down merit clearly in any of these criteria, and they are operating these tests in such a manner that they will not give a fair chance to those who are not from those communities. So there's no fairness. So I think one of the big issues that we have to as a part of the counter revolution against the annihilation of caste is to redefine the caste as merit, and not define merit, not talk of competence, not talk of capabilities, but talk of individual qualities and characteristics that really only the dominant oligarchy has, and therefore to keep us out. And that's why we are not getting any opportunity. So I would say, when we talk of caste, we must talk of merit. We must say, okay, there is caste today. Why? Because you have a false idea of merit that is prejudiced and biased. You're reflecting your own, the oligarchy caste values and qualities are being used as a criteria for deciding who has power and wealth in this country. And that is today's expression of the caste system.
Right, sir. Now, what I wanted to just comment on
Yes.
these aspect of
Yes.
how can they judge?
Yes.
How can they judge anybody without knowing him on a particular topic or the subject?
Correct.
They are prejudging us.
Yes. That
They
is
are
caste.
prejudging. How
That is
can they
caste.
for judging anybody? For judging anybody, one should first understand what he knows about the subject. But they are at the beginning itself. They are saying, you do not know this. You being from a lower strata of the society, you cannot be appointed in the scientific institution, as if
Yeah.
as if the knowledge is only their domain.
Yes.
Anybody can have a knowledge. You see, if anybody has got an urge to acquire a knowledge, he can be more competent than anybody. And Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar himself is an example.
Yes.
He himself is an example that there was no competent person of his competency
Right.
uh, to take up such a Herculean task and drafting the constitution.
Yes.
That is, you see, ever since the constitution was to be brought or prepared, since then all the Brahmins, those who were there in the politics, they do not want a constitution wherein the principles of liberty, fraternity, justice have to be implemented, because then their dominance will go. But for the condition imposed by the British government, they had to accept this constitution. Otherwise, they were not interested in this. If we see the proceedings there, or the what Baba Sahib has said earlier also in the roundtable conference, so they are not prepared. So,
Right.
what I wanted to say, it is futile to expect from them that they'll uh, introduce the principles of liberty, fraternity, and equality in the uh, Hindu society for reformation of Hindu. So it is for us now. It is we
Correct.
have to. It is we have to, matlab, go for a political power and get the constitution implemented with its letter and spirit. Then only it will be possible. Why I have in, got into politics, it is for this reason only. I am convinced. I am convinced that they will not do it. They have not been doing it. Even people in the judiciary, Baba Sahib wanted at least, at least they'll do it. At least they'll do it. But even the judiciary, again, that Brahminical mindsets are there. So what I feel, if we really wanted to annihilate the caste, those who have created caste in their own interest, it is futile to expect from them that they will do it.
No, they
They
will
have
never do.
consciously introduced it. They have consciously introduced it. And therefore, those who are the sufferers of this caste system, they have to come forward and put all their mental energy, intellectual energy, and destroy the caste system. And for that, the most potent weapon is capturing the political power. And as you said, the economic power, of course, whatever the economic powers they have now, that also they have gained through the political power. We can see now those politicians who were paupers yesterday, today you find they have crores and crores of property. So it is through the political power only they have acquired most of the economic power. And therefore, it is the political power which is more important. That is what I feel. And then only we will be able to establish a society based on the principles of liberty, equality, and fraternity. That is what I feel, sir. But now I just wanted to listen from you.
No, I think no one can deny that ultimately there must be due share of political power for all communities. That's the only basis of democracy. But the question is, why do we not have it after 75 years? See, now Karnataka census has come out. It's 6%. General category is 6%. 94% are not in the general category, according to what we have read in the press. But there is no political power is completely controlled by the 6% even now. So how do we get political power to be had? Why is it we don't have political power after 75 years? We cannot even get 500 votes in elections, because this present process of getting political power itself is not an open democratic process. So unless we
Right.
question fundamentals, we will never get political power through the current processes. We will never get it. We will never get it. There is money power, muscle power, all these, the control of media, the control of public opinion, the control of education. Through all this, we will never get political power through the current process. So the question is, how do we get political power? So we have to identify the nature of the counter revolution and counter it. And the nature of the counter revolution is, one of it is to redefine the superiority in terms of use of certain other methods of proving that we are inferior. Those methodologies have to be attacked by us. That is one very important practical method that we have to see. Baba Sahib Ambedkar did not have to say at that point, you must not have faith he said you should not have faith in Shastras. Now we have to say you should not have faith in the admission test, in the IAS exam, in the NEET exam. You should not have faith in these testing systems which are deciding merit. You must reject them and demand a more democratic, more fair way of defining merit as competence, very specifically in a measurable way, and then being able to decide on the selection. So that we have to to question the system of selection and system through which we are being excluded. That's the first point. The second point, which is I think very important, that they're maintaining the counter revolution. There are basically only 2 points. One is through this, and the second point is by falsely giving us the Hindu identity and saying we are all Hindus, while maintaining the superior status and exclusivity of the Varna system without any change. They have convinced us that we are Hindus, although only 30, 40 years ago we were not considered Hindus. Only the caste Hindus were called Hindus. But now they have convinced us that we are Hindus, and they are now implementing this idea of keeping up the caste system using different brand names like Hindutva, Sanatana Dharma, Brahmanism, so on and so forth. But basically, they're keeping up the caste system by creating an idea, a commonality, that there is a Hindu religion and our religion is a Hindu religion. That is where Narayana Guru comes in and says, no, Hindu is a common name, group name for only 11 Brahminical religions. It is not our religion. Because if it is my religion, then I have to have full access to it. He said it has never been a religion. It's only a group name. The real names of the religion, he says, are Pauranika, Vaishnava, Shaiva, and Sakteya, Advaita, Dvaita, Visishta Advaita, Sankhya, Meenamsa, Vaiseshika. He says these are the real religions. And the group name is Hindu. These are not our religions. So then what is our religion? Our religion is basically what globally, socially may be called pagan religion, where we don't believe in any organized religion. We accept, we use different types of worship. We are very open and independent in our spirituality. We are sovereign in our spirituality. So this is not Hinduism. Narayana Guru, that's why Narayana Guru said in 1925, there is no such religion called Hinduism. Because he said it's only a group name for 11 religions, it's not a religion. Baba Sahib said in 1936, it is not a society. So we know that Hindu is not a society, Hindu is not a religion. So, but what
even Baba Sahib said it is not a religion.
So we have to, first of all, we have to build consciousness amongst the public about the fraudulent nature of the merit process to determine merit. That is the operation of the caste system is through the operation of a particular system of merit. Second is that the operation of the caste system is through creating a false idea that we are Hindus, confusing us about what our religion is and what our religiosity is, and bringing us, as the Supreme Court said in a 1964 decision, Shastri Yajnapurush, that first called us Hindus and said all Hindus have faith in the Vedas, which is not true for the vast majority of the so-called Hindus in this country. They don't know the Vedas, let alone have faith in the Vedas, right? So they're bringing us under this approach of making us Hindu. Then culturally and linguistically, they're imposing Hindi and as a culture. So Hindi and Hindu Rashtra as a political entity, which is authoritarian, which is based on the Varna system. So Hindi, Hindu, Hindustan, this is the nature of the counter-revolution that is coming against us. And we have to question all this and convince the people that these are ways of bringing back the Varna system and taking us back into servility and slavery eventually, and denying us as I said, in Karnataka, it is 94% of the people of this country, their equal humanity and their equal citizenship. So the nature of the counter revolution, I think, is to be found in the modern day practices of caste, which includes methods of selection, creation of a religion that falsely includes us while denying us equal status in that religion, right? And a religion that does not include our faiths. The people that we worship, the gods that we worship, are not part of those religions. So making us much more conscious about what our religion is, and realizing that the Shastras are not our religion. And so there's no need even to really understand and reject them. They're not our religion at all. So we have to develop consciousness about our own religion. And for that, also, we have to resist the identity that is being imposed on us, the Hindu identity. And we must develop alternate identities that we are in control of. Dalit is such an identity. Bahujan is such an identity. Mool Nivasi is such an identity. Our own community identities are alternative identities. But whatever identities are possible, we must protect them and nurture them and strengthen them, because they are not actually the identities created by the caste structure, and they will resist the imposition of Varna on us through the identity, the Hindu identity, which, as Narayana Guru and Baba Sahib have pointed out, is really not the identity of our religion. So this is, I think, broadly where the annihilation of caste agenda is, where the counter revolution, what modern day caste is, what the nature of the counter revolution is. We have to focus on methods of selection, methods of appointment. That is where caste is living and working today. So we have to closely examine that, reject that, have not faith in any of these systems, and demand that they must be democratized. We must also have clarity about our religious faith and understand that our multiple open spirituality, where we decide what to believe in, is sought to be destroyed and replaced by a religious identity which will be controlled by the only people who can authoritatively tell us what the Shastras are, namely Brahmins. So we are being brought under that hegemony. And thirdly, I think we must realize that there is an authoritarian, a fascist state that is sought to be created as a Hindu Rashtra, and therefore we have to fight and defend that Hindu Rashtra is based on unequal citizenship and unequal humanity. We must fight and defend the Indian Constitution, drafted under the chairmanship of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, which is based on equal citizenship, which is based on equal humanity, and which rejects the stratification of humanity, the division of humanity into different castes on an unequal basis.
We are already on the job,
Yes.
as we already organized around 500 symposia all over the country, and we are bringing these 2 points. As we have discussed also, the constitution is being destroyed by them. They do not want to implement the constitution with the letter and spirit, and they wanted to bring the Hindu Rashtra. And we said, as Baba Sahib has already said, it is a calamity on the nation if the Hindu Rashtra becomes a reality. So we are fighting, and let us all of us join hands and fight against this Hindu Rashtra and the merits, the type of merits they are deciding us. So
yes.
Deciding that the merit should be decided. The list of merits, we will have to work for we have to examine the people for the competency, as you have said, and is what I wanted to say.